An algebraic expression is an expression that includes variables so an algebraic expression is not an equation, so it would look something like this. Here's an example: 3x, or x plus 5, or 2x minus 6 plus y all over z. There's not an equation, there's not an equal sign, but it includes variables. So example 1, evaluate each expression. Make sure I would always try to simplify first, so combine like terms, and then use the order of operations. So the order of operations, always keep in mind, you need to do parentheses first, so any type of grouping symbols, do inside there first, then exponents, then multiply and divide from left to right, so if dividing comes first, then you have to divide first, and then add and subtract from left to right. So you can also write dividing, multiplying, or subtracting first, then adding. So, like I said before, you always want to simplify first. So this, before I plug in -1 and -3, I'm going to see if there's anything I can combine. So right here, I have a squared, 2a, and 3a. 2a and 3a are like terms. They have the same variable and the same exponent. This one has a different exponent, so a squared is not the same as these. So I can combine these two. So now I'm going to write a squared plus 2a's and 3a's is 5a's. Evaluate means to calculate, or if there's a variable you have to plug in. So I'm going to plug in a is -1. And when I do have negatives, I want to plug them in parentheses. So now I do order of operations. -1 squared, there's an exponent. I know I have some parentheses right here, but these parentheses are just separating numbers. They're not specifying an order. So I'm going to do -1 squared, which is 1 times 1. So this is 1 plus -5. So the answer is -4. So I want you to show your work. I want you to show your simplifying. I want you to plug in negatives in parentheses because it makes a difference. If you had -1 squared, that is different than -1 squared. This one right here is going to do 1 squared and take the opposite. This one means -1 times -1, so it's always going to be a positive. So they're not the same. And then next one, I'm going to look at, see if I can simplify. Do I have any terms that are like? I don't. So I'm going to use order, or I'm going to plug my numbers in. So I have -1, -3, minus 3 times -1 divided by -3. I'm going to zoom in on this because this is going to be a long one. Plus b, which is -3 times -1 squared. Yuck. That's a lot to write down with those parentheses. So, it looks like a lot. So first, if I look at my original problem, I have a squared, so I don't have any parentheses that specify an operation. So I'm going to do the exponent first. So this is going to turn into a 1, because we know that -1 squared is +1. And then next, I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So these two are multiplying. So if I multiply these two terms, I have a negative, a negative, and negative. So the answer is going to be a negative. So it's going to be -3. And then I have, these two are multiplying as well. So it's going to be +3. And then I'm going to write this out. Divided by -3 plus these two, which is -3. So I have to It looks very tempting to do negative 3 plus 3 first, but remember you have to do order of operations right here. So 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. So it's negative 3 plus negative 1 plus negative 3. So now I'm going to group the first two. So it's negative 4 plus negative 3, which is negative 7. Here's my answer. So just a couple of vocab. Coefficients are these numbers in front of variables. So up here, the coefficient of this is 1. The coefficient of this term is 2. This term is 3. The coefficient's negative 1. The coefficient's negative 3. The coefficient's 1. The coefficient's 1. And then like terms have the same variables and the same exponents. Example 2, simplify by combining like terms. So this one I'm going to use the distributive property twice right here. So I'm going to copy down the 3y, but then I'm going to distribute this part. So it's going to be plus 2y minus 10. And this negative one out front changes each of these to a negative. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So usually what you want to do, a good rule of thumb, is write the first letter of the alphabet that you have. So I have an x, so I'm going to combine, I don't have any more x's, so I'm just going to do negative x, and I'm going to cross it out, and then I'm going to add my y's, so it's plus 5y, and then I'm going to add negative 10 and negative 6, and I get negative 16. So letter B, I'm going to do the distributive property again on this part, so it's going to be negative 3x squared plus 15x minus 18, and then do the distributive, well, this is you're distributing 1, so it's not going to change it. 2x squared plus 15x. Now you're going to combine your x squareds. So negative 3x squared and 2x squared is negative 1x squared, cross, cross. 15x and 15x is 30x, and then minus 18. So I want to write it from the highest degree. So the degree of this is 2, the degree of this is 1, the degree of a constant is 0. You want to write them in order. And then letter C, I'm adding two things together. I'm adding two fractions, but so I need to make sure they have the same denominator. So they don't. This is a 3, this is a 6. I need to have a common denominator. So a common denominator between 3 and 6 is 6. So I want this one to look like a 6, which means I needed to multiply it by 2. So I have to multiply this numerator by 2. So I'm multiplying the whole quantity by 2. That's why I put it in parentheses. So now I'm going to do the distributive property. 2x minus 4 over 6 plus 2x minus 5 over 6. Now when you add fractions, you add the numerator. So it's going to be 4x minus 9 over, keep the denominator the same, 6. Now I would try to reduce this. You can, because you can reduce each part of this fraction. So this is the same thing as writing 4x over 6 minus 9 over 6. So 4x over 6 is the same thing as 2x over 3, and I can divide both of these by 3, minus 3f's. So you could do that. And then the last problem, D, find the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, you need to find the distance around the polygon, the shape. So you're going to add up all the sides. So 2c plus 3c, I'm going to trace as I go. 2c plus 3c plus 2c's plus 3c minus d over 3 plus a d plus a d plus a d plus a 6c minus 2d over 3. So before, I know I'm going to have a common denominator because I have these fractions. I'm going to combine as much as I can before I get a common denominator. So the coefficients are 2, 3, 2. So that's going to be 7c's plus 3d plus, well, right now these two have a common denominator, so I can add the numerators. So it's 9c minus 3d all over 3. Actually, I don't need to get a common denominator with these other two because I can reduce these two. So it's 7c plus 3d. I can divide 9c by 3 to get 3c, and I can divide negative 3d by 3 to get negative 1d. So at the very end, I'm going to combine my c's because that becomes first in the alphabet. So it's going to be 10c's plus 2d is the answer.